Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I've got an exciting guest in Stephen Stairs from Benton. They've got a tremendous project for high-grade copper in Newfoundland, and the Stairs family is renowned in the mining business as award-winning prospectors and explorers. Steve, looks like you got your hands on something real special here.
Yeah, you bet, Allan. We're happy to be advancing this great burnt copper asset. The project is, as I mentioned before, turning out to be much higher grade and in thickness wise, better thicknesses than we even anticipated when we
Yeah,
started.
this latest news release, 12.3 meters is 7.2% copper. And that's outside the modeled shell there. It's got to catch a little attention. It certainly caught my attention.
Yeah, and like grades and thicknesses like that, you build tons quickly. And of course, grade is always king. And these are rare intercepts that we're hitting. I mean, the previous stuff of 26 and a half meters of over seven as well. 11 meters of 10% copper, I think, or vice versa. I mean, these are intercepts that you dream of as a career professional in the mining sector. And yeah, we anticipate some more good holes yet to come.
And not only is grade king, but continuity is king point two or something like that. And I was looking at your cross section there, and it not very far from where this hole is, you've got another one that I think you just mentioned, the other one that's not too far away, and it's certainly looking like you've got grade and continuity, which is a hell of a combination.
Yeah, historically, I think that was the problem that the historical resource missed is due to small diameter core, X-ray pack sack drilling, and core loss recovery and azimuth control, factored into thinking that this deposit was not, had good continuity or not continuously high grade. And I think we're now starting to prove that it is continuously high grade with the drilling that we're doing, either infill between some of these historical holes that previously had mediocre results, and also that just the geometry holds together extremely well down plunge. And our deepest holes have seen some of the widest intercepts, such as hole 12, which we're anxiously awaiting for the results. But, we think this thing is wide open for expansion, and we can't wait to get in there this winter and drill some deeper holes down plunge on this thing.
I've seen some of the core, and man, that's nice looking stuff, just loaded up with sulfides.
Yeah, you don't see it very often in your career, like you say, especially hole after hole. As you mentioned, I've drilled a lot of good holes in my career, but then only to step out and drill a much weaker intercept, which kind of loses faith in size and continuity and grade, as you mentioned. And so these are rare opportunities. And when I'm trying to send around some maps showing the comparison to Rambler Metals, Ming Metals mine in Bay Verte in Bay Verte area of Newfoundland, which is now over 30 million tons at 2% copper, and it's been in production for some 15, 20 years, mining a high grade lens very similar to that of Great Burnt, but they didn't hit the big deposit much later in its lifetime in the 2000s. So it just goes to show you that these systems can be very, very large, especially given a similarity in plunge and grade to the original discoveries. And we think we have the same potential here at the Great Burnt deposit. And as I mentioned, this don't
First
include
highs, but bigger grade.
Yeah, and it don't include the stuff to the north where we are getting high grade copper and high grade gold with
Wow.
high grade silver and cobalt.
You
So
know, something that really caught my attention is you did a brief interview not long after you had some results out, and it really impressed upon me. Well, it confirms something I already knew. You guys are your family is great at exploration, but the way you were going about doing it is confirmation of that to me. Now, some people might not get that excited about twinning holes and holes near other holes, historical holes, but the reason that you gave is from a geotechnical perspective is bang on the money. You got the historical holes were small diameter holes, and those small diameter holes had recovery problems. And so, as far as I understand, your theory was that they were probably understating the grade. And so you had to go in there and put something really close or right beside it to confirm that theory. And boy, did you ever confirm that theory.
yeah, and Alan, we really can't even take the credit for it because Spruce Ridge Resources had already started to do that in 2016 when they drilled, near some mediocre results and come up with some, super high grade intercepts. And as they moved all the way through to 2020, when they held the ground and before the option it to Benton, they continued to prove that the historical holes were not accurate. And with that information in mind, we just ran with that. So we're no rocket scientists. We just using common sense, saying in theory, if we drill some holes between good, historical holes or mediocre holes, and then we drilled somewhere there was really no grade, like holes up number I think 10 and 11 were drilled above and below a hole where there was zero values in an historical hole, and both holes hit wide intercepts of massive sulfide.
Wow.
So using this, we now are pretty confident that this thing is still going strong down plunge, and we'll take that in February and start expanding on it. As you move southward on the deposit, it gets fairly wet, kind of a bit of a swampy area. So we'll wait for the ground to freeze. That's why we're going to wait till February, because we're not drilling optimal holes. We're kind of moving away from the deposit a bit as we move south to stay on a little bit of a higher ground. So this should give us optimal angle to drill a hole, which we're going to have to drill the holes near, between 70 and vertical, because as we move southward, we're realizing the deposit seems to be flattening as
But
well.
yeah, it's like this. So those, you don't have a situation where it's like this and you're drilling vertical. So you're not going to
That's right.
miss it because it's sitting like this.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things, a lot of, you know, we're seeing a lot of good information in this last drill campaign that's going to help us as well. And there's a possibility that even the historical holes either drilled above the deposit because again of deviation, and or below the deposit again because of deviation in small diameter core. Plus, they had the problem with grinding sulfides away once they hit it and taking control. So for us, it's kind of an old blessing giving us a new blessing. So
Well, and you know, that's something that Newmont really did a lot of studies in all the mines throughout the world, Steve. And they said that it's usually the seventh company that's in a project that finds the mine. So it's that collection of work sometimes that leads towards the success of finding an actual mine. And so you know that's what you do, take all the past data and compile it, look at it with new eyes, and go from there, which is what you guys have done.
Oh, absolutely. There's a zone called the North Stringer Zone, which is only a kilometer north of the Great Burnt, and it's actually on a bit of a fold. It looks like stratigraphy has folded over a little and moved a little bit to the east. And Celtic Minerals, done a lot of work on it. In fact, that's where they've done, most of their work, except for some holes to the north. Um, and they started to outline a lower grade 1 to 1.5% deposit near surface. But some of their deeper drilling, they did do pulse EM, and they did have an off-hole conductor that was not tested. So we're actually compiling that old data right now, and we will test that because maybe it is the deeper portion of the Great Burnt deposit,
And
massive
that's a
sulfides.
kilometer away.
That's a kilometer to the north, yeah.
Holy
So
moly.
there's potential here, and these systems, as you know, repeat themselves. It's an exciting belt, and it's an exciting time, and the fact that we're getting these numbers, and if we do the right work, I just have the feeling this could be the one.
And I had a great geologist as a mentor, and he gave me advice that I've never forgot. He said, watch the distribution of whatever you're looking for in the drill holes and where those drill holes are in the system. And looking at your cross section, you can see the zone that's sort of modeled, and you guys are already getting not only inside of that known zone, but you're now stepping out. This hole today was on the edge of the modeled, and then you've got holes outside of it and below it. So you're really going after this sucker.
Yeah, you bet. And like you say, when you look at, I think it's holes like 9 or 8, 9, no,
You'd announced
9, 10,
8.
and 11.
Yeah,
Uh,
9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 12.
That's, if you look above on the section, there's no drilling above that, even historical.
Oh,
So,
right.
that there's a huge hole up there that could host, 3 million tons of copper mineralization. So that needs to be cut off. Of course, we need to keep stepping up plunge on that as well. So there's a lot of room here to build tons of copper. So and of course the drilling up dip is going to be cheaper, because you're drilling shallow holes. So
Cheap and fast.
yeah, deep and fast. And the drill company we had in there, Majors Drilling out of Deer Lake, tremendous drillers.
Yeah,
No
because before
breakdowns.
we were talking, you said the importance of how hard you push that drill rig to make sure you keep the recovery.
Yeah, yeah. And when you got good drillers, you don't have to worry about losing core, or hitting a fault zone and losing a hole. Knock on wood, we had 100% success rate, both in core recovery and both in hitting massive sulfides, and we drilled for less than $200 a meter all in. So that was
Whoa,
pretty remarkable.
that's about as low as you can get it in Canada these days.
Yeah, and to be honest, Allan, once we now that we've got our camp established and everything, that was building in, establishing a 20-man camp and stuff. So now that we're in place, that cost, should even come down further. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean, we got good road access. We're 2.5 kilometers from a hydropower dam, and we're actually camped on the side of the hydropower dam.
Wow.
That's where our camp is. So, yeah, it's you couldn't get better infrastructure, and we've in Spruce Ridge owned the ground. They upgraded the drill trail, which was previously just a skidder road. They upgraded it so that you could use a side by side and you could access that 14 kilometers, with a within 40 minutes now of back and forth on a nice, comfortable, side by side where you're not froze to death. As you know, working in the fall of the year and stuff, you need to be dry, and you don't want to be getting somewhere and be already soaking wet and cold to be productive, right? So
You know,
comfort is a
as
big.
you're talking about that, Steve, it really emphasizes to me the experience that your family and you have had in the exploration business. You talk about things that these are the logistical issues that you have to deal with when you're running a drill program. And you guys have run a lot of drill programs, so all the thick curveballs that could hit you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the same sort of thing when you're working in exploration. It's not easy work. People think that you're out there.
Turn on the drill and you're drilling.
Yeah, but when you're froze to death and sleeping in a prospector tent with no floor, out there trying to find the infamous, or the elusive
Buried treasure.
deposit. Yeah, I mean, it's tough work, and your heart gets broken 100 times, and it's nice to have one for once that's really holding together.
Looking at it, and then I'm looking at the cross section, and the depth of it looks like not only is it open, but it could get bigger as you go deeper. You could be looking at the top of a lens where it's pinched and sort of balloons out as you go deeper.
Yeah, well, like you say, with the center of it is seems to be 20, the thickest parts of it is 20-25 meters thick, and that includes some stringer mineralization and disseminated stuff in between several thick, massive sections. But like I say, hole 12, that's got 25 meters of near solid massive sulfides.
And that is your second deepest hole.
That's our second deepest hole. That's about the core, where we believe the core is, and that's where so the next hole will be down plunge of hole 12. It won't be below it or above it. It'll be kind of just.
And the model kind of thins out down there, but in reality, that's just because of the density of the drill holes.
That's right, and those circle holes that you see, again, we obviously we believe they're of merit, because they were drilled, but we don't know if the azimuth was right, if they drilled above the deposit, did they flatten, did the azimuth change, did they grind the core away? There's a lot of factors. So we just simply got to re-drill those areas, and if we hit, we're going to be able to say, okay, this thing is going to get much bigger.
Well, you've got to be excited about seeing your thickest intersection of sulfides in your second deepest hole there, Steve.
Well, exactly.
Because the density of the holes, they're spread out quite a distance from each other, the historical holes.
And you got to remember when you're drilling a hole, these things, and your deposit could be sitting flat, and if that flattens at all, you're going to be over the top of the zone, or you're going to be underneath it. You got to be pretty precise, especially if your lens that you have is, say, 150 meters in size, in thickness, or or in length, I guess.
The thickness, I know what you mean.
Horizontally, thickness, and then there's your vertical thickness. So, it's kind of like a big flattened sausage that's plunging down that you have to hit it. So when you're drilling a hole from 300 or 400 meters above you, those holes are hard to control. With newer technology, of course, it's easier because we can keep the azimuth going straight and the dip, with newer technologies. But back in the day, you drop a acid, a glass test tube down in the
core,
and wait for it to etch, and then you go up and draw a little line. you knew which the dip of the hole, but you didn't know which way the hole was going.
Right.
It could have changed azimuth left or right and start chasing stratigraphy. You just didn't know.
Right. Well, there again is the importance of having a good, strong drill team that knows what they're doing. You don't just want to push. Everybody thinks you just want to push that drill as hard as you can, but you want to get representative results out of it and not screw it up, because it gets a lot more expensive to redo another hole.
You sure do.
Yeah.
And we've got a great team. My brother has joined us to do kind of to manage the exploration field side of things and find new stuff. He's probably the best in the business, at finding new zones and making sure we check every conductor, with trenching and or prospecting and managing crews. And then we got two great geologists, Barry and Steve, that's been managing the drill programs and putting everything into 3D modeling. So it's coming together really nicely, and
Well, I'm really
awesome.
excited for the ability to expand on the model you already have, and then keep following it deeper. And especially knowing now that you've got that thick intersection of massive sulfides as you get deeper. So there's some zonation of grade inside of these VMS deposits that, you're kind of getting the green light of what you want to see as you go deeper.
Yeah, and we're not, some Besha deposits actually get some good zinc content to it. Right now, we're getting anywhere from 0.2 to 1% zinc, so we don't even report it at this point. But there is a possibility that there could be a phase in the system where the zinc came out in a complete different horizon or a line strike, because they do come out in zones. So it wouldn't surprise me as we get deeper on this that all of a sudden we start hitting the massive copper zinc portion of the system. But of course, no guarantee on that, but it wouldn't
No,
surprise me.
there never is. That's why we put the truth machine down there.
Yeah, of course.
And the other thing that really excites me is, I spent a lot of my career in diamond exploration, so I understand a little bit about volcanogenic systems. And I also spend a lot of my time in VMS exploration. So, I'm well aware that these volcanogenic massive sulfide systems tend to come up in clusters. And you're sinking your teeth into one, but there certainly could be more. And the idea that a kilometer away you might have an extension, that's pretty exciting stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, when you look at the belt to the north of us, the Buckins belt, I mean, I can't remember the total tonnage out of Buckins, but certainly 40 or 50 million tons of super high grade. At the time, it was one of the highest grade VMS deposits in Canada. Then there was Duck Pond that just closed down. I think they had 6.5 million tons of 3.5 copper, which was mined by Ore Resources and then taken out by Teck Resources. And then, of course, Cantera and Buckins Minerals, junior companies, just merged to the north of us to create a super VMS company holding all the resources in that belt. And there is probably 6 to 8 on-mine deposits in that belt still.
And how big is your land package?
We have 25 kilometers of stratigraphy. So we have a really, really good land package. We own pretty much all of what we believe the prospective Beshi type environment would be. And, half of that ground has not really been even remotely explored.
And that's at surface. You got a deposit here that it needed a new set of eyes and a new way of doing things to really to blossom. So what is around you? It's quite a tremendous story. I love high grade, Steve.
Oh,
And
me too.
I love high grade and continuity. And
Grade cures everything.
well, if you got the continuity, you can't have spotty grade.
Yeah.
But it looks like you've got everything. And I'm really glad you took the time to tell my audience about the story, Steve. I've admired you and your family for a long time because you're salt of the earth people that are very experienced in exploration. And I'm really happy that it's you guys, that it's your kind of people that found something like that. I think you got something really special here, Steve.
Well, I really appreciate it, Allan, and really appreciate you having me on. And finally, glad we got to connect on your show. And yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to do it again when we release a few more juicy holes.
Yeah, especially that 12. I'll be watching that one close. Well, actually, I'm watching everything, these pending holes outside the model. I'm really excited to see how that turns out. So, and based on what I see so far, and knowing how these systems operate, I think we're going to have a lot to talk about in the not too distant future.
Absolutely, buddy.
All right. Thanks a lot, Steve. I'm going to close it off. We can have a chat at the other end.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Allan. Appreciate it.
Okay. So there you go, folks. Benton is, they've gone into a project that was known, but not well explored. And they're doing a fantastic job of enhancing the previous work and then stepping out. And, like Steve and I were talking about, those are spectacular grades and good thicknesses in them. I talked about seeing that drill core and some beautiful looking sulfides in there. So what you should do is go to their website, check out the news releases. They do a really good job of presenting what the known deposit models and looks like in its dip, and where they've drilled around it and the results that they've got. Check out their corporate presentation, and I think you'll be as impressed as I am with the quality of this project. And we need copper exploration, and not just exploration, but discoveries. The copper space needs more of these, and I'm always on the lookout for good copper stories, and I just can't find a lot of them, especially when you move down the food chain from development into exploration. And Benton has something really special. So as always, my shows are for information purposes only. Speak with your financial advisor, do your homework, and stay tuned, because Steve and I are going to have a lot more to talk about in the not too distant future. Have a great day.